all the presenters' profile is listed here, so I don't like to introduce in detail. No reason to do that. But I will take this opportunity to introduce some of my colleagues lives here. And first, I'd like to introduce Dato, President, and Kwon Byung-hwa is, please. He is the chairman of Technomax International company. I understand it's a huge company based in Malaysia. And next to him, Professor Kim Seung-jin, economic professor, Department East Asian Studies, University of Malaya. All I happen to have met this today, although Dato Kwon Byung-hwa, I met him yesterday. I'm very happy to see you. Another, actually, this gentleman here, Professor Park, is co-author of the Irwin Tan, and he's going to present the paper, but he co-authored of this paper. Okay. I don't know who attended, but anyway, welcome. Warm welcome to this panel. This panel, titled, as you see, Korean Unification Vision and the Peace Building in Northeast Asia. And I'm going to present first in this order, and then Professor Chang and Professor Kaseda and Professor Tan. And I'm going to spend about 15 minutes, and I'm going to entertain your questions. At least I will save 20 or 30 minutes, so that I expect you're going to make a very constructive comment on our presentations, particularly from Professor Kim. He's an economist, and I'm sure that he will expect he's going to present a good comment. Okay, welcome, please welcome. Come on in. We just started. Welcome to this panel. Okay, now, for those who came a little bit late, my name is Tae-Wan Kwak, chair of this panel. Also present my paper first, okay? Okay, now this is my title, my paper title, One Korea Unification Vision. I don't like to use Korean unification, but I like to say one Korea. That means one Korea, the unification vision. Again, I use the term vision rather than dream. Vision is a much future-oriented expression. My argument is, of course, you can see the one Korea unification vision through neutralization. Of course, I am the chairman of Institute for Korean Peninsula Future Strategies. This is belong to the Global Peace Foundation, Seoul, Korea. But my view does not necessarily, of course, it does not reflect the Global Peace Foundation. I want you to understand that. This is solely my own, okay? Hopefully, Global Peace Foundation adopt my view. That will be fantastic. But again, What I'm going to tell you, to report or present my paper is solely my own view. I want you to understand very clearly at the beginning. Okay? This is, you have a paper, so that this is a table of contents. I'm going to talk about it. And now, my argument, that's a core argument. I say two Korea have conflicting unification formula or formulas of the two Korea. Now that's so one Korea unification formula through neutralization could be an alternative to the two Korea existing formula. And the third argument is roadmap for achieving 5-stage neutralization unification is provided in my paper, and to build a brand new welfare unified Korea. Okay, that's basic my argument. So let's see. I'm going to explain in detail. This introduction is hard to read it, right? So I'm going to again summarize a few important points. You can hopefully you can quickly follow it. That there are two Koreas on the Korean peninsula, right? In the north, DPRK official name is a sovereign state, is a DPRK. DPRK stands for Democratic People's Republic of Korea. There's North Korea. In the south is ROK, Republic of Korea. DPRK, as you know, is a nuclear state threatening peace and security on the Korean peninsula and in the Northeast Asia. So it is getting stable under Kim Jong-un regime. We may, if we have time, we may talk about the current situation in North Korea. And in the south, President Park Geun-hye in February 2013 adopted the new policy toward North Korea, known as the Korean Peninsula Trust Building process to improve hostile inter-Korean relations. Now, as I said, two Korea have a different unification formula, and in the north is DFRK. I will use the term DFRK. That means Democratic Federal Republic of Korea. Is a South Korean. In the south, the official unification policy is Korean National Community Formula, unification formula. Because of conflicting unification formula, I will explain a little bit detail why two formulas are in conflict, and alternative to existing unification formula is desirable. So I propose unification formula through neutralization. You got the point? I mean, that's very important to understand. We need a common unification formula, but there is no common unification. We have to make efforts to adopt a common unification formula. The alternative is unification formula through neutralization. Again, this is my argument. This is nothing to do with the official position of Global Peace Foundation. I emphasize again. Okay. Okay. Next. All right. This is a North Korean unification formula. This is called Democratic Federal Republic of Korea. Korea. DFRK. Used to be Democratic Confederate Republic of Korea. That English, the initial English expression, but they are not use Confederate. They use the Federal Republic of Korea. Korean language, Koryo 연방제. 연방제 is Confederate means 연합제, but 연방제 is correct. So Federal Republic of Korea. Now, the Kim Il-sung. Who is Kim Il-sung? This, of course, founder of DPRK, right? Kim Il-sung announced official DFRK plan in October 10, 1980. Okay, what the essence of DPRK formula? Okay, then let's go move here. Who is the man behind the Kim Il-sung, right? Okay, very good. And the DPRK formula is a federal system in which two regional governments can coexist. In other words, South, North can coexist under one roof. That is Supreme National Federal Assembly and also Federal Standing Committee. This is a central government of DFRK. Now you got some idea what they really arguing, right? Okay, I'm going to move quickly. Now, this detailed explanation in my paper. Now, this is DFRK has a problem, has deficiencies. So the DFRK has several structural deficiency. I'm going to cite a few for your better understanding. First, North Korea claims that DPRK is a complete form of federation, not interim step to the final federation form in the unification process. In fact, if the FRK is a final form, so therefore ROK cannot accept it, primarily due to preconditions for implementing it. So what are the preconditions? There's a 5 preconditions I listed. At least 5 preconditions for establishing the DFRK, Democratic Federal Republic of Korea. That is, again, South Korea cannot accept that. For example, resignation of ROK government, okay? And then abolition of anti-communist policy in the South, elimination of national security law in the South, and the U.S. troop withdrawal from the South, and release of political prisoners, including communists in the South. So South Korea cannot accept these preconditions, right? So that's why the South Korea cannot accept it. South Korea cannot accept North plan, and the North Korea cannot accept South plan either. That's why I'm looking for alternative formula. That's why here, one Korea formula through neutralization. This is hopefully both agreed the common ground. Okay, then let's take a look at briefly the South Korea official the unification formula. Who is this man behind this? Do you know? Okay, No Tae-woo, President No Tae-woo. President No Tae-woo, the scholars in the field need to reevaluate his achievement. He initiate the first engagement policy toward North Korea and also communist state in late 1980s. So I highly praise him for his the initiation, the initial engagement, what I call the engagement policy. But historians underestimate his performance. But anyway, he introduced the Korean unification formula. It's called Korean National Community, KNC. Now, this KNC is an official policy of the Republic of Korea. Okay, even today, Park Geun-hye observed this official policy. Now, then next, I'm going to, what is the KNC formula? KNC formula, of course, over the years, KNC formula has been modified. And President Kim Young-sam, of course, after No Tae-woo stepped down, President Kim Young-sam modified the KNC unification formula, proposing national community as a new paradigm in unification policy. So the allocate proposed blueprint for unified Korea through Inter-Korean Confederation, and that is of course very innovative then. And official, the KNC has 3 stages. The first stage, inter-Korean reconciliation and cooperation stage. Second stage, the South-North Korean Confederation. Third stage is, of course, establishment of a single unified state. As I said, North Korea cannot accept this. This is very different from North Korea unification formula. All right. You all remember this picture before, right? Who is that? Kim Jong-il, and on the right, Kim Dae-jung. Okay, and they had for the first time the first summit meeting in June 2000. So that was a historic event, hug each other and so on. They agreed, this is the only one, South, North, agreed on unification formula, paragraph 2 of the joint statement. This is a very important one. And I'm going to take a look at second paragraph of joint declaration states, I quote, acknowledging that there are common elements in the South proposal for confederation and the North proposal for federation of a lower level, lower stage, as the formula for achieving this, I don't like to use reunification, but is an official document, is listed, reunification. The South and North agreed to promote reunification in that direction in the future. Now that's a very significant for the first time, both leaders signed this document. There's one important common unification formula. Okay. Now, of course, this declaration is a great departure from the past, symbolizing the end of ideological argument. Okay, let's take a look at briefly what is a low-level federation. And low-level federation, DPRK proposed, symbolize peaceful coexistence between two Korean states. The two regional government under, of course, DFRK plan. Please come over here. Oh, you can sit. No, okay. Welcome, President Sir. I appreciate you coming in today. And so the low-level federation is basically under this concept, both regional government can coexist, recognize each other, and given sovereign right. So it's kind of very much similar to the South assertion of confederation, okay? But North Korea argued that there should be what we call Unification Council on the top. But they didn't spell out detail. That's the problem, okay? So let's, I want to try to make a simple. Now, next, what is South proposal for confederation? As I said, very similar to low level of federation. Okay, so this is of course the allocate proposal inter-Korean confederation on June is in fact second phase of allocate unification formula. That is a confederation. Right now, this is one thing is to make a long story short. The allocate proposal for inter-Korean confederation assumes one nation, one state, two systems, and two government, and two Koreas will possess their respective defense diplomatic rights. So further, two Korea will have inter-Korean summit meeting, inter-Korean parliamentary meeting, and inter-Korean cabinet meeting, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's really understand inter-Korean confederation, the second stage of the Korean official unification policy, as I explained. Okay, now, okay, what are the common features of the two proposals? The first two proposals are based on principle of peaceful unification, okay? And the second two proposals have interim stage in the unification process, not the final stage of Korean unification. I want you to understand this very clearly. And third common feature is North Korea proposal for low-level federation. Low-level federation granted diplomatic defense rights to two regional governments, South Korea government and North Korea government. Two regional government would participate in the central government on equal basis, but the national unification, North Korea used reunification. Korean Unification Council must exist to supervise, of course, two regional governments. Again, the National Unification Council has not been spelled out in detail by North Korea. And that's, then what are the differences? Next, right? What are the differences between two Korea unification formula? And for the first North Korea DFRK plan aimed at achieving one nation, one state, two system, and two government, while the South Korea formula is designed to achieve one nation, one state, one system, and one government. That's a difference. And second, North Korea was originally, when they proposed, was designed to prevent unification through absorption by the South. Well, that's a very important, I found out. And third difference is DPRK formula has, as I told you before, preconditions for implementing the North Korean plan. South formula does not have any preconditions. That's a difference. Now, the DFRK plan, the fourth difference, both differences, DF plan has central government, while South Confederation plan is interim stage to unified Korea. Hence, it does not have central government. And next slide, I'm going to show you the comparison to Korea unification formula. Okay, there's a name, KNC, and DFRK, DPRK, basic ideology, ROK, liberal, democracy, 주체, based on 주체 ideology, unification by the all people, proletariat class, unification principle is in the South, independence, peace, and democracy. In the North, the principles are independence, peace, and the great national unity. As of course, South doesn't want to use great national unity, instead to use democracy. And the unification process is, of course, as I see it, in the South is three phases. As I mentioned, the reconciliation, cooperation phase, and then second phase, confederation phase. Third is unified single state. And also DPRK has also the interim stage, that is low-level federation. And then low-level, this is an interim stage, I argue, that to achieve DFRK, this is, of course, Democratic Federal Republic of Korea. And again, that's most important. And interim stage confederation, and DPRK has low-level federation, and format of unified Korea. You can see single state, but in North Korea is a two regional government. And the future vision of unified Korea, this is, of course, is very important. And is a freedom, South plan has a freedom, welfare, human dignity, democratic state, and the North is a non-aligned neutral state. Okay, now, timing running out. Quickly, I will go over my argument here. One Korea formula through neutralization, regime building. I mentioned earlier that the two Korea's unification plans or formula formulas are incompatible, in conflict. So therefore, I argue here New Korean unification formula through neutralization. Through neutralization I propose as an alternative. As again, a lot of people in Korea doesn't like my idea. Of course, they worrying about unification formula. It require the U.S. troop withdrawal, something like that. So I don't advocate that point at all. However, they misunderstood. Of course, neutralization plan, they don't like it anyway. So I'm fighting very hard to make them understand my plan. Okay, let's move too quickly. Of course, here that I argue that we have to build the peace through neutralization, the regime building on the Korean peninsula. And I'm going to skip this. So we have to, this is what I call the PNKP. The 1, 2, 3, third one, the neutralization of Korean peninsula will be in the best interest of the Korean people and the four major powers, resolving intra and inter-Korean ideological conflict and promoting peace and stability in the Northeast Asia. This is at least, in short, I want to understand neutralized peace regime on the Korean peninsula will be achieved if there is a national consensus. We have to build a national consensus in Korea first on Korean unification through neutralization in the South and the North. Long way to go. And I'm not saying that this is my unification vision in the future. Okay, now this is the neutralization regime building as an alternative. As neutralization essentially designed as a means of the promote the national reconciliation of a harmony of interest, peace, and unification on the Korean peninsula. In the present Northeast Asian security environment, four major powers, you can see four major powers, are unwilling to support Korean unification primarily because of their interests are in conflict, okay? However, neutralization, unification will benefit all parties concerned, two Koreas and four powers. So therefore, the neutralization, in my view, is based on assumption that four major powers would prefer unified, neutral, independent, and peaceful Korea to a divided, unstable Korea. Hence, in my view, four major powers are likely to support neutralized, unified Korean peninsula, which will be in their best interest. I hope the Professor Cheng and Professor Kaseda going to talk about my proposal from the Chinese and Japanese perspective in a minute. Okay, now next one is very important. Why I argue neutralization? What is the rationale for neutralization on the Korean peninsula? I cited four perspectives. Of course, number one, from geopolitical perspective, Korean peninsula has been victim of balance of power politics among major powers surrounding Korean peninsula for many centuries because of geopolitical strategic location. Thus, neutralization will liberate Korean peninsula from the balance of power politics. That was my first argument. Second argument is from four major powers' perspectives, the neutralization would be in the best interest for major powers. Hence, they will be very supportive, okay, of the neutralized, denuclearized, unified Korean peninsula. And then the third point from perspective two Koreas. I consider neutralization will be means to resolve intra-Korean conflict. What we call the South-South conflict is a Nam-Nam 갈등, because this is very important. We have to, at least the neutralization could weaken ideological feud in the South. At least that's my argument. Fourth, from unification formula, as I explained to you, there are two conflicting unification formula, so we need some alternative. That's why I arguing unification through neutralization. Okay, now, then how to achieve? How to achieve neutralized welfare one Korea state. Now at least this is a very the core argument. Who is that gentleman over there? Anybody? You can identify Son Hak-kyu, who is senior advisor to Democratic Party. Last year, he during presidential campaign, he made a proposal for unification through neutralization. Of course, we are very happy. Particularly, I am so happy about that because at least I have one of my colleagues. He's a political scientist, and I don't know whether he will be president. If he becomes president, my proposal will be very quickly accepted. I hope so. That's this. I have a 5-stage neutralization unification formula for constructing unitary, unified, neutralized welfare state, and I'm going to explain very briefly. That's okay. Now this is each stage. This is a roadmap, what I call the action plan for achieving 5-stage neutral unification formula. This first stage, since you have a text, if you're interested, the neutralization preparation period, and I'm going to go real fast because time shortage. And second stage, inter-Korean nuclearization, the unification formula agreement. South-North must sign neutralization agreement. And the third stage is international neutralization treaty should be concluded between two Koreas and the 4 major powers. Now this stage is very important. 4th stage, neutralization constitution should be drafted, approved by Koreans, and the 5th stage, general election and establishment of one Korea stage. Now, this is a requirement for realization of five-stage unification through neutralization. I cited 3. Political will of the 2 Korea top leaders is absolutely required. This is if you don't have political leaders are not interested in this program, there will be no unification through neutralization. And also, second requirement, South and the North must take initiative. Again, we cannot rely on major powers. South and North must, particularly South Korea must take a leading role, of course. And there's a third requirement. Again, we have to develop this mutual trust. Okay, here listed first, stop their arms race, avoiding military confrontation, and gradually engage military security confidence building between 2 Koreas, and to normalize Korean relations by reducing tensions on the peninsula. Of course, these are the 3 major requirements. Okay, conclusion. Quickly, there's a unification, Korean unification vision is again, as I said, not dream, but the future vision. It's a long way to go. It's a rough and a difficult road to the peaceful unification. Now, second is, of course, nuclear issue must be resolved, all right? And then, of course, peace building, peace structure should be built on the Korean peninsula. And next, of course, Korean people should take initiative, play key roles in making, of course, great effort to achieve the Korean unification. As I said, it's a long way to go. Yeah, so we have to plan ahead. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. Now I'm going to call on Professor Cheng to present his paper.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Huang, for your kind invitations. And I really appreciate your hard work and admire your roadmap for unifications. And because we're running out of time, so I'm going to focus on my presentations. You see, my presentations mainly is divided into 2 parts. So once I'm going to quickly examine China's roles in ancient times and in People's Republic histories, how China played the roles in current unifications and divisions. And then as I move to the second part, I'm going to speculate how China will play in the future's Korean unifications. You'll see is in the past 1,500 years, China had played a very important role in Korean unifications and divisions for a number of reasons. Number one, China's Korean's immediate neighbors, and unfortunately, China is a giant neighbor. So in ancient times, China painstakingly cultivated so-called tributary systems, in which China occupy central positions based on China's superiorities in economic, in political, and also in China's cultures. And the tributary system is a hierarchical interstate arrangement, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. But also it's a convenient device of interest trade-off. The state on China's peripheries pay their tribute on regular basis and demonstrate their submission to Chinese emperor in exchange for a number of things. And largesses, regime recognitions, and security protections, and something else. But you see, from time to time in Asian times, China intervened in Koreans' affairs for a number of reasons. One reason is, yes, to eliminate the security threat from peninsulars. Before Tang dynasties, China faced the threat from Korean Peninsula, particularly the Korean state we called Mongolia. So how to eliminate the threat from Korean Peninsula is security concerns, and China try hard and intervenes Korean affairs in attempt to eliminate such a kind of security threat. Secondly, to fulfill obligations stipulated by the tributary systems. You see, as I mentioned later earlier, tributary system is a device for interest exchange. So once Koreans face external threat, they're going to ask China's interventions. So in Tang dynasties, China intervened. In Ming dynasties, China intervenes. And in Qing dynasties, China intervened upon the request from Korean regime, Korean government. And thirdly, to set up buffer zones between China and hostile state. So this was not issues when China was strong, and particularly before the Yuan dynasties. But in the late years of Yuan dynasties, the Japanese pirates from time to time harass China, invade China, and this become a severe security issues during Ming dynasties. So China need to set up buffer zones between itself and Japan, in other words. So that's the basic reasons for interventions. Yeah. The roles China had played in ancient times. Number one, China is the conquerors. China sent troops, military forces to Korean Peninsula to set up direct controls in that regions during Tang dynasties. This is a role China had played. Secondly, is a unification facilitators. China's interventions, particularly China's military interventions during Tang dynasties, which lasted from 7 centuries to 10 centuries, produced unwanted result, the unified Koreans. So I think that's the roles, even though China didn't really want to play such kind of roles. But as a matter of fact, China's interventions promote Koreans' unifications. Third, security protectors. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, in Tang dynasties, in Ming dynasties, and also Qing dynasties, China sent military forces to counterattack, to oppose Japanese military forces on Korean peninsulas. Unfortunately, in Qing dynasties, China was defeated by Japan, and China is declined, and Japan came to dominate East Asia. Let me also make quick reviews. The evolutions of People's Republic of China's roles. You see the foundings of People's Republic of China open new chapters in its relationship with Korean peninsulas. China basically is adopted leaning to one-side policies. In other words, leaning to North Korea's policies. So as a military, China offers security protections. China intervenes in Korean wars and save North Korea's regime. So secondly, when China joined the United Nations, China also make good use of United Nations and become DPRK's supporters. And but such a kind of policies changed when China exchanged diplomatic recognitions with the Republic of Koreans, South Koreans. China tried to pursue so-called equal distance policies toward the two Koreans. So how to play a balanced, a neutral roles is a challenge for China because China used to leaning to DPRKs. But nonetheless, you see, is in the 1990s, early 1990s, China was lukewarm bystanders. Just watch what happened on the Korean peninsulas and short-lived détentés between two Koreans. Since China's relations with DPRK plunged to a freezing point, so China's influence over the DPRKs dropped to the minimum. So China, also at the same time, China's relationship with the United States also was in the bad shape. China's lukewarm bystand, watch, and without interventions. But nonetheless, since United States and South Koreans proposed so-called four-party talks, China became active participant. In that little bit 3-year-long four-party talks, China proposed a number of principles, guiding principles, how to establish permanent peace mechanism on Korean Peninsula, and how to reduce tensions on Korean Peninsula. China made enormous proposals and norms. After the second Korean nuclear crisis, China began to host so-called six-party talk. China became, I like to say, is the mediators, the host, chairman of the six-party talk. And the six-party talk is also a multilateral platform designed to address three interconnected outstanding problems. One is North Korea's nuclear issues. Second, permanent peace mechanisms. Third, normalizations of DPRK's relationship with the United States and other Western countries. So that's the big change. But how to, because this is the seminars mainly focus on China's roles on Korean unifications, particularly in the futures. It's hard to speculate detailed plans, but I like to offer three scenarios in which China could play. The lowers expectations. China will be a non-intervener and also non-obstructionist for a number of reasons. Number one, as Professor Huang mentioned, the Korean unifications is the business of all Koreans. So Korean people need to be the master of the final destinies. They're supposed to make their initiative play a leading role. Number one reason. Secondly, and unpleasant historical memories. As I mentioned, China from time to time intervenes, and these kind of interventions create unpleasant memories even in the DPRKs, even though China saved that regime. And third, historical lessons. The German lessons, Vienna lessons, and the Yemen nations. The three nations achieved the final unifications without major interventions from major parties, major powers. And the fourth reason is if China's adopted active interventionist policies, that policies will invite the other major powers interventions and will make situation on Korean Peninsula much complicated, much challenges. This is the reasons. The moderate expectations. China will be a collective good providers. You see, China is the second largest economy. China is not a regional power anymore. China is, and it's still growing a world power. So how to behave as a world power, responsible power, and that's the big challenge for China. So I think it's as a way to behave in a responsible ways, China needs to offer collective goods to the region, to the world. And there's a number of things actually China can do in social aid with Koreans unifications. Number one is build new type of major power relationship. Major country relationship, sorry, since not major power relationship. This is the formulas Chinese leader Xi Jinping's give out to address the challenges on China and the United States relationship. So how to manage the most important bilateral relationship between China and the United States? I think that's the fundamental challenge. If two countries could manage well their relationship, that would be a great contributions to the stability on Korea Peninsula and to facilitate unifications on Korea Peninsulas. And second, let's settle the territorial disputes by peaceful means. By peaceful means. Seemingly, you see China engaging in territorial dispute with a number of countries, include Japan's, Philippines, and Vietnam's. And seemingly China, according to some observers, China willing to use or threat to use military force to settle the issues. But I think as a responsible stakeholder in these regions, and I think it's very important for China to seek solutions to the territorial dispute by peaceful means. And this behavior actually could also perceived as providing collective good. And the third point, the promoting denuclearizations of Korean peninsulas. But some Korean scholars like to emphasize denuclearizations of DPRKs. And also as Professor Huang's, his conclusion mentioned, North Korea's nuclear issues must be addressed before the final unification could be achieved on Korean peninsulas. And China's top leader, Xi Jinping, made a decision to address these issues in a serious ways. And I think it's, China could not walk away and ignore these issues. So the solutions of North Korea's nuclear issues actually will be contribute to the final unification of Korean peninsulas. The third, the peacekeepers. The peacekeepers doesn't necessarily mean the peacekeepers in East Asia. I think it's the peacekeepers means if something happened on Korean Peninsula, such as large-scale chaos took place on Korean Peninsula, China would willing to play a larger roles and to maintain the peace. And last point, stabilize financial and trade market. China is now the hub of the trade, not only in East Asians, but also in the world. And also at the same time, our second largest economy, China embrace proactive policies to internationalize China's currencies. So such kind of efforts will cause repercussions across the world. How to stabilize financial and trade market is something China needs to think hard and try to offer collective goods. And the last point, the high expectations, active interveners. And I think that China's could be active interveners and a number of circumstances. Number one is China will be upon the explicit invitations from the two Koreans, not from one Korean, from two Koreans. Two Koreans need to express its willingness for China's intervention, something need China to address. And also the second second situations, and China need to intervene. China's major interest may be in operates without interventions. For examples, massive chaos erupted in the DPRKs, massive refugees rushed to China, and also China's interest in the DPRKs, the properties and human being safeties are in jeopardy as China will intervene, and nuclear weapons may fall into the wrong hands. And other extreme circumstances, China need to intervene, and China just cannot sit and watch with folded hands. And I think as active interveners, what purpose China want to achieve? I think it's China want to mold the unification process on Korea Peninsula that could be best serve China's national interests. I'm going to stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Cheng. You delivered very well Chinese perspective on the Korean unification vision and the Northeast Asia peace building. Thank you again. Next speaker will be Professor Kaseda, University of Kitakyushu. You have 15 minutes.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Professor Kwak, for inviting me to this this panel and giving me the opportunity to present Japan's view on Korean unification vision and Northeast Asian peace building. Okay. Well, I would like to talk about Japan's stance toward the Korean issue and issues, and how Japan approach to peace building in Northeast Asia. Unfortunately, Japan lacks leadership and visions. I'm kind of critical of my of my country, but yes, we do have some interest in normalization with DPRK. We had normalization talks which started in early 1990s, and we had first summit in 2002, and we have motivations. We have expectation for gaining economic benefit by improving Japan's relationship with North Korea. But Japan has been following the policy of the United States and South Korea, particularly the policy of the United States. It's because, well, for Japan, United States is the most important country, and South Korea is important too. The relationship with North Korea comes last compared to the two other countries. So improvement in North Korea's relationship with the United States and South Korea can facilitate, has actually facilitated Japan's softer stance toward North Korea. But on the other hand, when tensions increases between North Korea and United States and South Korea, it becomes difficult for Japan to improve relationship with North Korea. And because of Japan's this tendency to follow the lead of United States and South Korea, Japan has presented few concrete ideas for peace building through peaceful means. And in Japan, there have been few serious policy discussions on Korean unification. Unfortunately, well, there has not been strong interest in discussing, taking up the issue of Korean unification. As a result, we don't really have concrete visions for promoting Korean unification. But I would say Japan can benefit from, as Professor Kwak pointed out, neutralization of hostile relationship of Japan, United States, and South Korea with North Korea. Japan can benefit economically from greater economic exchanges among Northeast Asian countries. Also, Japan can expect reduction in security costs. For instance, cost for unilateral military buildups. Japan has actually has increased military spending in response to North Korea's nuclear and missile development. Second, Japan can reduce cost for strengthening its alliance with the United States. In order to strengthen our relationship with the United States, we have maintained a large military presence of United States in Japan, particularly in Okinawa. It's a heavy burden for people in Okinawa. We also provide the largest host nation support for the United States. It's very significant. These kind of costs can be reduced by improving tension, reducing the tension with North Korea. But as I said, U.S. policy has the strongest influence over Japan. And so U.S. policy toward North Korea is crucially important to Japan's policy toward North Korea. But the United States, I would say, has been very reluctant to normalize its relationship with North Korea. U.S. has reasons for its reluctance. First, let me mention that United States made few bold steps toward normalization, despite the agreed framework of 1994, in which United States agreed to act toward normalization. Also, despite the agreements at the six-party talks in 2007, in which United States again promised to move toward normalization, but few concrete steps actually followed after the agreement. And why United States has been so reluctant? Because I would say normalization with North Korea can create negative impacts. First, declining South Korea and Japan's security reliance on the United States. And this could lead to reduction in South Korea's and Japan's host nation support for US forces in their countries. Also, if tension reduces, declines, US arms sales to the two countries will be will get smaller. Another kind of negative impact is in in the area of economy. If the tension with North Korea reduces to the extent that the United States normalizes its relationship, I would say South Korea and Japan's economic dependence on the United States will become smaller. If the Northeast Asia become a peaceful place, there will be greater economic interaction among Northeast Asian countries. That will reduce South Korea's and Japan's economic dependence on the United States. So overall, U.S. Normalization with South Korea is likely to lead to erosion of decline in U.S. influence power over the two countries, Japan and South Korea. And these are the negative aspects that United States can easily anticipate, expect. But in contrast to the United States, North Korea has been very eager to normalize its relationship with the United States. For instance, following the 1994 agreed framework, North Korea actually froze its nuclear facilities. And after the 2009 agreement at the six-party talks, maybe I should say instead of dismantlement, following Professor Kwak's advice, and I should have said written disablement of nuclear facilities. It went beyond the steps it had taken at the time of agreed framework. That time just freeze. But after the six-party talks agreement, North Korea moved beyond that stage and actually started dismantling nuclear facilities, right? So actually, North Korea made these kinds of concrete actions. And then why North Korea has been so eager to improve its relationship with the United States? It has good reasons. The thing is, United States, U.S. economic and military pressure on on North Korea has been hindering, obstacling, distracting North Korea's economic development. That's one thing. Another thing is, as I said, Japan's policy toward North Korea is largely dependent on U.S. policy toward North Korea. So bad relationship between North Korea and United States led to, actually, prevented Japan DPLK normalization. And also, bad relationship between United States and North Korea negatively affected improvement in inter-Korean relations. And since United States is reluctant to promote reduction in tension in Northeast Asia, and Japan is not really likely to play a leading role, I would say South Korea needs to play the role of creating, promoting peace in Northeast Asia. And I would say South Korea has a good reason to do so. First, South Korea, of course, has a passion for reunification, unlike Japan or Japanese or Americans. Second, unrestricted inter-Korean exchanges, human exchanges, and economic exchanges are strongly desired for South Koreans. And South Korea could get a lot of economic benefit from improvement in inter-Korean relations and greater peace in Northeast Asia. And actually, China and Russia can play a facilitating role for peace building in Northeast Asia, along with South Korea. These two countries can also benefit economically from greater peace. As you know, China has been the leading economic partner for the North Korea. It has provided aid, and the bilateral trade is very large. And China has invested in North Korea, particularly well known in investment in Rajin, it's a northeastern part of of North Korea, bordering China and Russia, investing in development of logistics, railways and roads connecting China's northern provinces to North Korean port city of Rajin. And this way, China is trying to promote economic development in these rather underdeveloped region of northeastern provinces. Russia also wants to develop far eastern part of the country, and in order to do so, Russia has been recently active in developing economic relationship, expanding economic relationship with North Korea, just like China investing in Rajin, building railways and developing port facilities. And I would say at the final part, move on to the final section, I would say it is a high time for South Korea to take the lead. It's partly because North Korea now put a lot of emphasis on economic development. This is kind of paradoxical, ironical, but North Korea has reached the stage of military development to the extent it has, succeeded in putting object into the space orbit. They say, well, satellite. And also, North Korea has conducted 3 nuclear tests. So now North Korea, the Kim regime, reached the stage where it can say to the public that we are now militarily powerful state. Now we can focus on developing the country economically, making the country economically strong. So as you may well know, that North Korea has been implementing a lot of economic reform policies. So this is a good timing opportunity for South Korea to make active engagement in actually supporting North Korea's effort in that direction, along with China and Russia. Well, I think I should end my presentation here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Kaseda. Well, I don't know. I do not manage time very well. I am sorry, but last speaker, Professor Tan, and co-author is Professor Park is sitting there. Professor Kita Govindasamy is not available here. And you have only 15 minutes.
I'll do my
Okay?
best.
Okay.
Right. So good afternoon, and thank you for your time. So how does this work? There we are. Yes, so in the period since the death of Kim Jong-il in December of 2011 has been followed by a period of great uncertainty on the Korean Peninsula. We have seen there were initial hopes that the leap year agreement of February 2012 will lead to a greater period of stability, but scarcely had the ink was dry on the leap year agreement, then North Korea went ahead with yet another test of the Taepodong missile. More recently, though, the North Korea, as you know, has been involved in a massive war of words in the so-called March 2013 crisis, with another missile test in December 2012, a nuclear test in February 2013, and an unprecedented level of rhetorical vitriol against the ROK and the US. So, set amongst these developments, much of the media spotlight has been focused on the US-ROK alliance relationship, and dealing with these North Korean provocations. In so doing, however, it's unfortunate that it has left ASEAN out of the limelight, which is somewhat understandable given that most ASEAN members take comparatively little interest in Korean Peninsula affairs. However, the excuse me a second. Now, given the fact that the period since in more recent times has seen the massive increase in commercial relations between ASEAN members and the ROK, most of the ROK, most of ASEAN members have been more interested in ensuring stability on the Korean Peninsula in safeguarding their own economic interests. However, my colleagues and I have determined that there's sufficient ground to suggest that ASEAN does have the potential to take a much more significantly increased role as a sort of a third-party mediator in facilitating a soft landing for the DPRK through capacity building. We propose to introduce this in the following sequence. First, we'll begin with a very brief analysis of North Korea's apparent Pyongyang strategy, which has emerged in the periods following the succession of Kim Jong-un. Second, a very brief look at what ASEAN is. Due to constraints of space and time, I can only focus on two members of ASEAN, namely Vietnam and Singapore, before looking at ASEAN as an institution in its own right. So in this sense then, we'll be looking at ASEAN's capacity for assisting in North Korean economic and social reform, on the grounds that, for one, North Korea has shown increasing interest in Vietnam's Doi Moi or renovation program of economic reform, as well as in learning from Singapore's own experience of economic modernization. Before moving on to looking at ASEAN as an institution and its potential role in capacity building in North Korean political and security through confidence and security building measures. Now, although all of this suggests that ASEAN can take an increased role with regard to the Korean Peninsula, I would have to conclude by emphasizing that ASEAN is only a middleman. It's more of a third-party mediator. It does not have the kind of dominant role that is enjoyed by the US with regard to Pyongyang. Okay, am I speaking too fast? Oh, it's a bad habit. If I'm speaking too fast, please raise your hand, okay? It's a very bad habit of mine. Yeah. So I'll look very briefly at the nature of North Korea's Pyongyang strategy. Now, a look at the period that has followed the death of Kim Jong-il and the succession by his third son, Kim Jong-un. As I pointed out earlier, you had the leap year agreement of 2012, following talks between the US led by Special Envoy Glyn Davis and his DPRK counterparts, leading to the leap year agreement under which the North Koreans agreed to suspend missile and nuclear testing as a quid pro quo for economic and humanitarian aid. But by mid-March, the North Koreans had already announced their decision to launch another missile test, which occurred in April of 2012. More recently, December 2012 saw yet another missile test. There was another nuclear test, the third in February of 2013. And you also had the closure of the Kaesong Industrial Complex in April 2013, which was accompanied by an unprecedented level of rhetorical vitriol against the ROK and Japan. But I think the media's focus with all these provocative actions, my colleagues and I do acknowledge the provocative nature of these actions, but we also point out that during the same period, Kim Jong-un also announced increased interest in undertaking economic reform. Take a look at the June 28th policy, which was announced on that date in 2012, under which Kim Jong-un announced an increased level of autonomy to factories to raise the living standards of the people. There was also a call to permit North Korean farmers to keep a larger share of their crop, thereby recognizing that there was, in fact, grounds for addressing the social needs of the North Korean people. My colleagues and I, along with many other members of the academic community, believe that North Korea has adopted a so-called Hyun Jin strategy, which I believe translates as parallel track, in which the North Koreans are seeking to simultaneously seek economic development as well as development of their nuclear missile program. Now, in some ways this might seem contradictory, given that by pursuing missile and nuclear programs is only increasing the level of international ostracism that North Korea faces. But if you look at things from the North Korean point of view, there are in fact grounds to suggest that the North Koreans are driven by a very cold and calculated form of logic that is very sensible from their point of view. Now, I think one important event that hasn't been exactly addressed by many scholars so far in this field is the impact of the Arab Spring since early 2011, which has essentially demonstrated to Kim Jong-un that continued repression alone cannot guarantee regime survival. I have a bit more detail on this, but I'm running short on time. Now, I think it's quite interesting to note a number of news articles which indicate that even North Korean soldiers posted on the border with China to stop defections have also started to defect themselves. Now, if this is the case, then it may be a sign that food shortages are also starting to affect the North Korean military. Now, given then that the North Korean military is, after all, the ultimate bearer of arms within the country, it is therefore the ultimate instrument of regime loyalty. So in other words, then, the fact that the prospect of a growing number of starving soldiers thereby makes it difficult for Kim Jong-un and his subordinates to maintain and ensure the loyalty of the military. Hence the urgency of economic reform in North Korea. But by the same token, though, the North Koreans are also afraid of yet another parallel phenomenon, namely the prospect of overly rapid economic reform. In this sense, the North Koreans are extremely fearful of what happened to the communist regimes of Eastern Europe between 1985 to 1991, when Gorbachev's implementation of perestroika essentially led to the collapse of the Soviet Union, as well as the communist regimes of Eastern Europe. Hence Pyongyang, which from the North Korean perspective makes a lot of sense. We believe that the North Koreans are attempting to undertake a program of tightly controlled economic reform in order to address food shortages and other social ills and the adversities faced by the North Korean people in order to ensure regime survival, whilst ensuring the continued loyalty of the old guard in the military, hence the missile and nuclear programs as a means of currying favor. Turning to the potential role of ASEAN, I'll begin with a very brief background on why we choose to look at the potential role of ASEAN and why North Korea seems to be showing an interest in learning from ASEAN. Well, one is the nature of the so-called ASEAN way, which when ASEAN began to emerge during the 1960s, it basically embraced the Westphalian norm of state sovereignty. In other words, rejecting foreign interference in one's own internal affairs. In this sense, then, the ASEAN way, by focusing on some level of stability between the different members of ASEAN during the 1960s, was crucial in enabling a stable political environment that was hence conducive to attracting foreign investment, economic growth, and industrialization. Please bear in mind that this was the backdrop of the Cold War, with the Vietnam War raging in nearby Vietnam. Further, in more recent times, ASEAN has also expanded on its own institutional capabilities with the ASEAN Regional Way, and in turn arguing that the ASEAN Way within the context of the ASEAN Regional Forum, pushing for a diplomatic culture that is based on diplomacy based on personal ties, trust, consultation, and consensus, without media scrutiny of potentially controversial issues such as human rights, as well as the distribution of food aid. Oh yeah, I forgot to add this point also, but one other point I forgot to mention is that North Korea also enjoys very good relations with all 10 members of ASEAN. In fact, Malaysia is actually the only country in the world whose citizens do not require a visa to visit North Korea. Now, for these reasons, I think there are grounds to argue that the North Koreans have many reasons to view ASEAN as an attractive regional model to learn from. One was if you could take into account the situation that North Korea is facing at present. We are talking about decades of Cold War isolationism resulting from the confrontation with the ROK and the US, which has resulted in decades of economic and industrial output which have been heavily and overwhelmingly skewed towards armaments at the expense of consumer goods. Furthermore, the Juche ideology of self-reliance has also led to North Korea's shunning of participation in the international community, both in terms of diplomatic terms as well as in commercial relations. More recently, the North Korean missile and nuclear programs have also ostracized North Korea in the eyes of the international community, as reflected by the constant imposition of sanctions on the DPRK. I think even more worrying for the North Koreans then is that since 1990, between 89 and 91, North Korea's erstwhile patron states, the Soviet Union and the PRC, also established diplomatic relations with Seoul during the same period. In more recent times, though, there was a lot of speculation that the North Koreans under Kim Jong-un were attempting to borrow from China's model of economic reform. However, since the succession of Kim Jong-un, however, it is apparent that the North Koreans are also worried about the practicality of adapting from China's model of economic reform. China is a country of more than 1 billion people, and it has enabled it to hedge against the shock of globalization. North Korea is a tiny, impoverished, and starving country of 22 million, which does not have the same ability to absorb the shock of globalization. Furthermore, the Chinese support for sanctions on North Korea following the 2006 and 2009 nuclear tests also indicated to the North Koreans that China is not exactly a politically reliable security partner. In this sense, the 2010 WikiLeaks episodes indicated that the Chinese diplomats had increasingly come to view North Korea as a strategic liability. Now, seen in this backdrop, then, we argue that the North Koreans have a lot of reason to view Vietnam as an attractive model to learn from. One is, of course, the shared ideological affinity between two socialist states. In a similar light, I did mention earlier, I did mention the extent of North Korea's current isolation, and in this sense, it's also paralleled very closely by the extent of isolation faced by Vietnam in following its unification in 1975, all the way through the 1980s. Hence, the Vietnam's unveiling of Doi Moi, which translates as renovation, involving agricultural reform to address food shortages, as well as the coordination of state-owned enterprises, or SOEs, to undertake economic modernization under government control. In later stages of Doi Moi, this also involved government support for small and medium enterprises, as well as increased production of consumer goods, which has resulted in some startling results, such as the fact that by 2010, Vietnam had emerged as the second fastest growing economy in Asia and one of the so-called civilized economies, poised to dominate the manufacturing industry by 2050. It's also possible that North Korea may also be attracted by the symbolism of Vietnam's ousting of the United States during the Vietnam War, given the North Korea's constant diatribes against the US military presence in the ROK. In this sense, then, we note the massive increase in the numbers of North Korean trade delegations to Hanoi since 2007, and also this statement by North Korean Prime Minister Kim Jong-nam during his August 2012 visit to Hanoi. I'd love to let you read it, but I'm being pushed for time here. Sorry, Prof. Park. The other country which North Korea has shown increasing interest in learning from in terms of economic modernization is Singapore, which may seem a bit surprising given that Singapore is a highly developed capitalist country as well as a close ally of the United States. But if you think in terms of the situation that Singapore faced in the 1960s, you also again had a rather isolated country, small in size, scarce natural resources, yet which was successful in building a very strong export-oriented economy. Furthermore, you also note the political dominance of the People's Action Party, or the PAP in Singapore, which by its political longevity was able to set and sustain the agenda of economic modernization rather than face political transition. In this sense, it's quite interesting to note that The North Korean references to, the North Koreans have made frequent references to the Rason Special Economic Zone as the so-called next Singapore. There have been a lot of quotes on that in the media, as well as in recent times, increasing upgrades to the infrastructure around the Rason SEZ, which may enable the North Koreans to build new trade links linking Japan, North Korea's east coast, and Russia. And furthermore, following the Banco Delta Asia affair in 2005-2006, there was also an increasing North Korean interest in moving financial assets to Singapore as a more secure location for its financial assets. And furthermore, like Vietnam's example in ousting the US military presence, I think the North Koreans are also attracted to the symbolic idea of this episode in 1993, when an American teenager, Michael Fay, was found guilty of vandalism in Singapore and subsequently caned. In spite of Bill Clinton's protest in Singapore, the Singapore government went ahead on the grounds that the US had no jurisdiction over Singaporean law. Hence, once again, underlying the ability of an Asian country to remain true to its identity and rejecting US influence. Further reflecting North Korean interest in Singapore is the activities of the Chosun Exchange, a non-profit organization set up in Singapore but with probably the presumed patronage of the North Korean government. And in this sense, I had a brief email conversation with the founder of the Chosun Exchange, the Singaporean Jeffrey C., who argued that his organization is involved in organizing workshops to help the North Koreans integrate with the rest of the world. Particularly crucial given the extent of North Korea's deeply internalized siege mentality and its very limited experience in international commerce and business management. The Chosun Exchange has therefore been involved in running programs for potential entrepreneurs from North Korea. Example, business workshops held by the Chosun Exchange in Pyongyang, as well as organizing study trips for North Korean citizens to study other countries' business models. So in this sense, then, this quote from my conversation with Jeffrey C. seems to indicate growing North Korean recognition of the need to bring in some level of market forces into the North Korean economy to ensure regime survival. Not only this, Jeffrey C. also reaffirmed the position of small and medium enterprises, which was a position similar to that adopted by the Vietnamese ambassador to KL, whom I also interviewed during the same week. Again, the focus on small and medium enterprises to increase the production of consumer goods and therefore address the standards of living in the country. On the institutional level, we also note the potential for ASEAN as an institution as a whole to adopt an expanded role with regard to the Korean Peninsula. Given the extent of ASEAN members' commercial relations with Seoul, there's naturally an interest in stability on the Korean Peninsula. At the same time, this is balanced by the fact that all ASEAN members have generally good relations with Pyongyang. The ASEAN Way, which I mentioned earlier, helps assuage North Korean fears of foreign interference in its domestic affairs. In this sense, I think it's also interesting to note the presence of quite a number of large North Korean communities in various parts of ASEAN, particularly Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and Thailand. Furthermore, the continuity of the ASEAN Regional Forum's summits that also provides many opportunities for sustaining the process of diplomatic contact between North Korea and the other members of the six-party talks. Hence, ASEAN's potential role as a sort of an honest broker, in other words, a sort of a neutral mediator. As seen in this slide, I think this background offers ASEAN a very strong opportunity to raise its diplomatic profile in assisting in North Korean capacity building to initiate and sustain internal reform in line with the December 2008 adoption of the ASEAN Charter in promoting a generally people-oriented community. In this sense, then, there are potential opportunities for ASEAN to build on forays similar to the Chosun Exchange in promoting social enterprise and education projects, which may provide a key in promoting the emergence of a new generation of North Korean economic reform-minded technocrats. In conclusion, I think it's necessary to qualify the extent of ASEAN's potential role in the Korean Peninsula. One is that the ASEAN as yet continues to lack a centralized policy decision mechanism, similar to the so-called alphabet soup of European Union institutions. Hence, the difficulty in ASEAN members in reaching any sort of consensus or using that as a basis for formulating policy. Furthermore, Vietnam and Singapore, although of interest to North Korea, may also have various factors which help these two countries achieve high levels of economic growth, but these factors do not favor North Korea. In the case of Vietnam, Vietnam has faced improving relations with the United States since 1995, and it has no nuclear weapons program. Singapore has a geostrategically located port, a skilled literate population, and at the time of independence, good relations with both the UK and the US. At the same, and moving on to ASEAN, then I think it's fair to conclude then that ASEAN will neither have a dominant role in the Korean Peninsula, nor would I see it as insignificant. Me and my colleagues would tend to see ASEAN as a sort of as a middle ground. It may be seen as a sort of a facilitator through which business skills can be imparted to North Koreans in order to promote the emergence of small and medium enterprises in North Korea, thereby contributing to an improvement in living standards. At the same time, given the ASEAN's role as a neutral mediator, it can also function as a sort of a third-party facilitator that complements the six-party talks. I apologize if I was speaking too fast, but I was being pressured.
Today I am very bad cop to control time. I spent too much time. I noticed it. But anyway, I like to entertain at least two questions. Yes, Professor Kim.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I congratulate Professor Park for his excellent presentations. But please forgive me that I have some reservation on your utilization policy of Korean Peninsula. First of all communist country collapsed, okay, even in the 1990s. And also there is only two countries who still stick to communism, North Korea and Cuba. So neutralization of Korean Peninsula is, to my view, very risky. If South Korea, for example, utilized, okay, then South Korea will lose its vigor and efficiency and its vitality. So it's my strong conviction that Korea should be unified in capitalist way, not communist way, not in a neutral way. So in that respect, I will not listen to your comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very, very much for your kind comments. All I want to say, please read my paper, and we will see you on Monday. Then you probably have different views after reading. Okay? Okay. Another one. Any? Oh, yes. Dato.
My name is Dato Kwon. I'm Korean businessman.
And push the microphone. Yes. Close to the microphone.
Yeah, my name is Dato Kwon. I'm Korean businessman here. So I'm very happy to be seated here today. And also I learn a lot of things from your presentations. And I'm also very shy to keep your concerns, so worry about the Koreans because of our younger brother, Kim Jong-un. Yeah. So I don't know whether I have good questions, but in the right questions, I want to know, as you know well, Asia economic sizes is almost more than 60% of all of the world economic sizes. And also, Northeast Asia economic sizes is more than 60% of the Asia. So which means in the Northeast Asia is very important positions. So whether we can go together, China, Japan, Korea, go for the peace buildings, economic buildings smoothly and friendly. So can you please, anybody, each of the presentations, Korean party, China party, Japan's, can you please in one comment for these questions? That's all.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the question. Anybody want? Maybe Professor Cheng, maybe you can answer. Respond to his question.
sorry, sir. I really get your questions, and can you repeat the last part? Okay. Yeah. China and Japan and other countries can.
Yes, this is China
Yeah.
and the Japan and
Yeah.
Korea. This Northeast Asia
Yeah.
economic is controlled over more than 60% by Asia.
Yeah, 6%. Yeah.
So whether we can go together for the mutual benefit for the peace buildings and economic buildings. Yeah.
Thank you. It's wonderful questions, actually. You see, in East Asia, they coexist three kinds of rivalries, inter-Korean rivalries. And China, the ongoing China and Japan rivalries, and looming large China and United States rivalries. But I think it's all the three rivalries could be controlled, could be managed, could be find solutions. So I think it's the two Koreans plus Japan plus China and plus United States. I think that they can cooperate each other, so find a way to maintain stability in these regions. Yeah.
Well, I think I would say it is in the interest of Japan to have good relationship with China, South Korea, and Russia, and North Korea, Mongolia, all those Northeast Asian countries. Well, the current administration has a kind of different agenda, but tend to be more nationalistic. But we have to, Japanese people have to face the reality of declining population, declining economic vigor in order to maintain the economic standard of living. I think we really need to have good economic relationship with neighboring countries. And politicians tend to have different agendas, but I would say Japanese businessmen are more realistic. And so in that sense, I have kind of cautious optimism.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to close this session because we have to vacate this room within 2 minutes. And thank you very much for panelists. You have done very good job presenting good papers. You produce good papers, but unfortunately, we didn't have much time to discuss further. Again, thank you very much for coming to this session. We're going to officially close this session. Thank you again very much.